Hey everyone, it's Julian, and today we're going to be talking about the State of Shadowverse Worlds Beyond. I have a bunch of topics to discuss, and I will say this will be more of a negative video. If you aren't into that kind of stuff, that is 100% fine, but there's a lot of things I feel like I need to talk about in the game and sort of discuss with everyone and sort of explain why I am really not enjoying the game right now and why I'm worried about it, because it does not seem like things will be changing. So there's going to be a lot of topics. I'm going to sort of break them down. If I look down, I have some notes written on my phone. So that's why I'm kind of looking down throughout the video. But we're going to be talking about the gameplay. So that'll be the actual like cards, balance, stuff like that. That's going to be probably the bulk of the video. Then we're going to talk about outside game. I couldn't really figure out a term to use to describe what I'm going to talk about, but it's going to be about events and Take-Two and stuff like that. It's like outside of the actual gameplay when you're playing the cards, but still in the game, right? And then we're going to be talking about competitive. Of course, I am a very competitive player in this game and in the first game, and why I am just really not into competitive this year. And then touch a little bit on the community. And yeah, so let's get into the video. I hope you guys do watch this. If you guys disagree with me, I'd really love to have some conversation in the comments. I'd really love to sort of figure out where we can go from here, because I do think the game is in a rough spot. So first of all, with the gameplay, I think the number one thing right now that is affecting a lot of things is the small sets that we are getting right now. So set 1, of course, came out, and it had 100-something cards, right? I believe set 1 had like 100+ cards, and then set 2 had 77, and then set 3, Heirs of the Omens, had 77 as well. And the issue with these small sets is that we are still getting rotation after set 5, and we'll have a 5-set rotation, which means that we will just have less cards in rotation at all times compared to Shadowverse 1. Now, if they designed cards the way they were doing for set 1, which we'll talk about in a second, it would be fine, right? But what they're doing, especially in set 3, is every class got a new archetype that did not build on the old archetypes and cards. So let me explain what I mean. So let's take Abyss. Right, Abyss, they got a brand new archetype, the Choose archetype, or the Mode archetype, right? And we had a couple Mode cards before, right? We had the Cosmic Cyclone and the Gensetsu and Yuzuki from set 2. And so it was like, okay, cool, this is like interesting new archetype. I like the idea of having a bunch of cards that let us do various things. But the issue is, an archetype like this, because of the way it's designed, right, you have to get to 10 mode hits before you can play Yamcha and Shamnacha and get the effect. A lot of your deck has to be mode cards, and we only had 2 of them beforehand, right? So even if we put those 2 in, that's 6 cards, right? We're still going to need to fill up the rest of our deck with these new cards, which does not leave room for old cards from previous sets, right? And this is what happened in SV1 every set. Every set towards the end of SV1 was brand new archetype that barely builds on old archetypes, and then the old archetypes will get 1, maybe 2 sort of bronzes and silvers to sort of support it. Now, back in the day, those bronzes and silvers would sometimes be insane and push that old archetype. The issue with the game right now is that we're getting a lot less cards per set, so we just have less of those cards that support the old archetype, if that makes sense, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 10 Abyss cards were mode cards, which I think is fine, right? You're trying to push this new archetype. I wish that they were able to design archetypes in a way that wasn't just, you have to play these new cards and you can't really incorporate the old cards well, right? We're going to talk about that in a second, but anyway, so that was 7. It's like, okay, that's fine. You want to push this new deck. The issue is the 3 other cards we got are awful, except for one. Like, I kind of like the Spirited Gravekeeper, but overall, it's not a good card, right? Spirited Gravekeeper, and then March of the Brutes, which might just be the worst card in the game, and then Ephemeral Demon Princess, which is like an interesting card if we had like a true Control Blood, or if we sort of had the ability to make multiple archetypes in each class, but we don't. So this thing is just way too slow and wouldn't even be played in like almost any of the Abyss decks outside maybe set 1. Like if this thing came out in set 1, maybe it'd be good, but especially after Gensetsu and Yuzuki, like this card's never getting played, right? So that's the issue, is even with these smaller sets, they are still printing these awful pack fillers, right? Like March of the Brutes, there's just nothing for this. Like I don't know, you know. And then but yeah, so that is Abyss, right? And that's like the example. But the issue with set 2, we had a lot of cool cards that didn't really get to see full play, right? Like, obviously towards the end, you know, Sharon started to get played a little bit more, but you read a card like Sharon and it's like, man, this card should be just a generic good card. But when we go back to the SV1 sort of style of card design and set design, there's nowhere to put this card because it doesn't say choose, right? And you need to get to 10 chooses. So that's my issue with not only the new smaller sets, but the archetypes, right? Because I think set 2 overall, like let's take a look at set 2. I think set 2 overall was a good set because it was, in my head, what I thought, it was building upon set 1 and they were designed together. That was sort of my thinking. And it was kind of just a lot of good sort of generic cards that sort of pushed these little seeds of archetypes that they planted in set 1 in different directions, right? Like we have some of these bat stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, we got the arrow, now we get even more bat support. We have like more aggro stuff with Excella, and then we have more board-based mid-range, you know, classical mid-range Shadow with the Sharon and the Undead Soldier, and then we even have this mix of both of them, which I thought this card was a really well-designed card in the Gensetsu and Yuzuki, because it was not only good for like a Control Abyss type of archetype, but also is good for that classical mid-range Shadow type deck. So set 2 was cool. It was 10, you know, cards per class, right? And that was still kind of rough. But that was just in my head. It was like, okay, next set we'll go back to the normal 100 plus or whatever, because this set was made with set 1. But that was not what happened. And instead of getting a third set of these really sort of well-designed cards that are giving us directions for these broad archetypes, we got this very focused archetype in the choose archetype. And it's up to you, you know, if you think this archetype was successful or not. I think that it's a okay deck, right? But overall, if we're just going to keep getting these archetypes that are just, you know, out with the old, in with the new, and only like 1 or 2 of the really broken cards like Cerberus get to go in there, and Vuela get to go in the old, the new deck, it's like, what's kind of the point of sort of deck building, right? It's like you just put all the new cards together in one deck, and there you go, right? So that's some of the old set, or the you know, archetype stuff. And my biggest problem is, I'm just using Abyss example, but my biggest problem, honestly, is that you can't build upon the old cards. I do want to just give one more example with this is, where is this? Yeah. Agnes, I feel like, might be my favorite card in the game. I think she's really well designed, and I'm going to come back to her on a later talking point, but I was really disappointed when Haven didn't get more amulet support, right? Because I think that Agnes is a very interesting card in that she can be a control tool for like this amulet deck, right? Because a lot of the amulets are sort of control based, but we do have a lot of amulets that are aggressive based and storm based, right? And sort of mid-range, you know, board based. And she fits in there as well. And I thought it was a really cool idea to design a card like this that's like, half and half and sort of can gel both of those theories of amulets into one deck and into one card. The issue is amulets overall in this game have not been super good, and then in set 3, the first time Haven has actually been a really good deck, it's just a completely, I don't have all the cards, but just a completely brand new deck that just has, like, what? You get 3 amulets, but you can't really play them with Agnes. You know, a Winged Lion Statue is really good, but overall it's just like, Winged Lion Statue is not enough to push this archetype, and then you can't put Agnes in this, Repose archetype because it's like, she didn't do anything in that archetype. There's only one, amulet max at a time on the field, right? So it's just like, what are we doing there? And it feels like they're sort of designing just, okay, here's a set, and then next set we just got to sell, packs and stuff and make everyone want to play the new deck, right? So next issue, and this is going to be more of a specific gameplay issue, and I'm going to talk about Sword. And that is the out-of-hand damage that we have in the game right now. Obviously, everyone sort of complains about Sword a lot, and I am like a Sword main, I guess you could say. And I do really like Sword, but I have not liked Sword mostly in this game. And I think I've pinpointed the issue, and it's mostly to do with the out-of-hand damage. Now, it'd be foolish of anyone or me to say, oh, this out-of-hand damage is a new issue. Like, we've been dealing with this out-of-hand damage for a really long time at SV1, right? Everyone remembers, a bunch of Storm cards, but one of the cards in my head that really sticks out to me is, like, a Gandagoza. Like, that card was just so absurdly, like, what are we doing here, right? When you have, and this is one of the bullet points. When you have too much out-of-hand damage, board becomes completely irrelevant. Sword, the board-based class, the class where you're supposed to develop tokens and stuff like that, and guys, has enough face damage out of hand now where you can kill your opponent without needing to swing anything that you played onto the board without Storm, right? If that makes sense. And that brings up an issue. So obviously it's like, well, that's just not the identity of Sword at all. Like, Sword is becoming this out-of-hand damage Storm deck instead of this board-based deck. And that brings up the issue of Zirconia. So Zirconia, and I've talked about this in my Discord a little bit. A lot of people hate this card. I hate it in a different way, but a lot of people think this card should be nerfed, and this card is really wild. The issue with this card is the out-of-hand damage. It's not this card in particular. The reason this card is so insane is because Sword has so much out-of-hand damage now that if you get hit with anything in the first 4 or 5 turns, they need like only 1 or 2 cards versus 3 or 4 cards to kill you at the end of the game, right? Zirconia represents 10 damage on turn 4 going second, and it's really hard to deal with for a lot of classes. And if you don't deal with it, your opponent literally just needs 1 more Albert on turn 9, assuming there's no healing. Odin Super Wild plus anything else, just stuff like that, right? Like, if you get 3 or 4 damage in their first 3 turns, because that's, sort of normal, especially if you go first, then you Zerk. Also, it's assuming, like, Zerk is evoing on an empty board, right? You probably set them down to, like, 17 before Zerk comes down. Zerk comes down, she represents 10 damage, and it's very hard to clear on that turn that she evolves. And then you do clear it, or, if you don't, or I should say, if you don't clear it, your opponent literally just needs, like, 1 Albert, and they win the game, right? So the issue is not that this card builds a board, because that's what Sword should be doing. The issue is that because of the out-of-hand damage, this thing becomes even more threatening because there's no game plan as the opponent where you can just be, okay, this is his first big board, but I will be able to deal with the other big boards that come down later, and I will basically never be taking another damage. Like, I personally think Sword shouldn't have any Storm damage, or if it does, it should only be Albert and they should like we'll talk about what they should do with the damage and stuff like that. But he should only be doing like 7-8 damage max, right? And that's, to me, that's the issue with Zirconia. It's not herself, it's that she sort of enables you to just speed the game up crazy amounts because of the out-of-hand damage Sword has access to. So the other, I have other issues with this card, like it's the classic like Shadowverse 1 where terrible card if you draw it outside of an Evo turn, like awful. Like if you don't Evo this card is the worst card in the deck, right? But yeah, that's Zirconia. And I think it really exemplifies where we're at right now. Of course, speaking of out-of-hand damage, don't need to talk about, Kakaitis D-Shift Super Evo, right? I mean, that's just like the classic issue right now. And Rune, I think, is in this really weird scenario where it's needed to be nerfed since the beginning of the game. Like, it's not a new issue, but the issue now is we're getting decks that get to that power level of this deck, and in my opinion, I think a bunch of things need to be nerfed. Where am I in my notes? Because I do want to talk about... Okay, yeah, we are on nerfs. Okay, so let's talk about sort of nerfs and buffs and stuff like that. So, they announced a couple weeks ago that at the end of every odd-numbered month, they will be doing a balance update. So what I believe that means is it will be very similar to the old balance updates. I doubt we'll get numbers. They stopped giving us actual data around 2021, 2020. But back in the day, we used to get data on like, hey, this deck is good, here's the win rate. That's how we knew for a really long time Omen's, I believe it was Omen's Mid-Range Shadow, was like the best deck of all time at that point based on win rate. And then eventually, obviously we got way more crazier decks, and it felt like every expansion we were getting a first week of just nut stuff and emergency nerfs like Mech Forest, Latica Forest from Renaissance Chronicles, stuff like that, Discard Dragon, stuff like that, right? So we're going to be getting every odd month these balance updates. That does not mean they will be nerfing anything or buffing anything. But my issue is, and this is one of the points that I really want to hear from you guys, if you guys agree with me, is I feel like we are at a really high power level right now, and I do not want them to balance the game by bringing the things that are lower up. So a lot of people, want Portal to be buffed. I do think Portal and Dragon are the two worst classes in the game right now. My issue, especially with buffing Portal, is that we still have really strong cards from set 1. Portal still has some of the best cards in the game in a vacuum in the, where is it? The Lovestruck Puppeteer. This is the best 2-drop in the game. The Alouette, which Alouette is basically the exact same thing I was talking about with Zirconia, where Artifact Portal has a ton of out-of-hand damage, and having a huge statted threat on turn 5 is really toxic for the game, because it's like it pushes the game way faster and does not feel like it's on brand with the archetype or with the deck, right? And then, of course, I mean, the card that everyone complained about for all of set 1, Orcus. So if we buff Portal, we are bringing all of these really strong cards and make them even stronger, which to me, especially we're only 3 months into the game, is not where I want to be, in my opinion. Now, there's a difference between power creep and sort of just new sets coming out and new archetypes. Like, you're always going to have a little bit of power creep, just to make the game more, new, and decks, like, we don't want Rune to just be existing forever. But in my opinion, I do not think buffs are the way to go for balancing this early. I think nerfs have to be the way to go. The issue, though, and this is where we get into, the issue of this, is that because we are 3 sets in already, they would have to nerf like 12 cards. Like, they'd have to nerf Cocytus, D-Shift, Anangrea, Norman, Kuan, some combo of those, right? Then they'd have to hit like if they want to go my route, they'd have to nerf Albert, Odin. What's the other Storm card? Oh, Sincero, or that's not Storm, but out of hand damage, right? From Sword. Or they go like nerf Zirconia, nerf, I don't know, Amalia maybe? I don't know, that'd be a weird nerf. And then, what else? It'd probably hit like a Roach or something. Like, they'd have to nerf a ton of cards to get us back, even just to set 1 power level. And what they're probably going to do is go buff 1 portal card, buff 1 dragon card, and the power level and the floor has increased ever so slightly, or who knows? I mean, sometimes they go crazy with buffs. And then, in my opinion, that would be bad for the game. So that's sort of my opinion on the buffs and nerfs. I think that they should be doing nerfs. I'm not really going to give, like, what they should nerf, because I don't know. I mean, there's so much stuff they should nerf. But I really don't want to see buffs. But I do expect buffs. And we will be getting those in basically 2 weeks. Then I want to talk about, and this will be sort of the last thing for the gameplay section, is Super Evolves. So Super Evolves are a main mechanic in the game, of course. And it's the new mechanic. It's the flashy, new, crazy from SV1. But Super Evolves, I feel like, have done very, very big damage to this game. So not only have we gotten 2 extra Evolves than we normally get in Shadowverse 1, that means that we do not have to really think about what we're going to evolve and stuff as much as we did in SV1. And think about also decks like Rune if you only had access to 2 Evolves. I think it would be a little more balanced, right? Because it's like Rune wants to evolve Anangrea, evolve, what's her name? Burgent, evolve a Norman somewhere in there, and then super evolve a Kuan or Cocytus at the end of the game. That's 4, right? Imagine if you only had 2, and you had to go, wow, I really need to regain my tempo with this, like, Evo Anangrea, or wow, I really want some value with the Burgent, or something like that, right? And then you got to save that last Evo till whatever, I would have really loved to see Super Evolves become, like, you use one of your old Evolve points, and past turn 7, they all become Super Evolves or something, and you still have 2 or 3 going second, right? So, the issue with Super Evolves is that everything about them is insane. But the main issue is the stats they give. So, in total, you basically have, from all Evo points, 10 worth of stats for basically free, right? Because you have 2 normal Evolves and 2 Super Evolves, so that's like 10. And because of how much storm damage we have, because of this guy, and because of other decks like Sword and stuff like that, we're getting this face damage really, really fast. And Odin is coming down and super evolving and taking out 1/3 of most players' health, which then leads into the necessity for healing. And then that sort of leads into the a lot of people don't like healing, a lot of people don't like Norman and Haven, but it's kind of a necessary evil because we have this guy and a bunch of other storm threats that just, you spend a super evolve, you spend one of your free resources and increase the game speed by a ton, right? And in my opinion, I think super evolves need to be completely changed. They can't remove them at this point, right? But they need to be completely changed because they keep designing cards like this. Or you do something where it's like you can't super evolve something with Storm or something like that. But then we go into the issue of like, Sincero is basically Storm, right? It's 8 damage face and the board, and he becomes an 8/9 after super evolve. It's just rough. It's just rough, man. The Super Evolves, I don't know what they need to do, but they need to do something, in my opinion, or we're going to keep getting crazy cards like this that almost every deck can play that will really speed the game up and make the game just even more toxic. So that was the gameplay. Again, let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. I'd really love to have a discussion, and I think that overall, I just don't want to see any nerfs. And I think for me, the game is not very fun right now because I guess I should have talked about this a little bit too, is the deck building issue, but I kind of talked about that with archetypes. But for me, I'm not having fun building decks because you pretty much just have to play the new archetypes, or you play Rune, which has just been good forever, right? And I feel like that's going to continue. Another thing, and someone in my Discord, and I believe that he saw it, like, he's not lying at all. Or he's not lying, but maybe he missaw it or whatever, but he got a new pack or a future pack, and it was for Verdant something. Of course, Verdant Conflict was I believe that was the first set. The first tree set, that was the Natura set. In my opinion, that was the set that sent us down this spiral in SV1 to the game becoming pretty bad, in my opinion. And if we do get Verdant, set 4 instead of like sort of like a Rage Bahamut-esque set where we get a lot of these other archetypes that they were planting seeds for, like the Bat. Like, we need Vampy somewhere. We need we still don't have Tia. Like, Aaron just appeared on my screen, but we still don't have Tia. There's so many like characters and cards that they keep like hinting at. And like what are we doing with all these Bat cards and stuff like that without Vampy? That if we get Verdant whatever instead of that, I don't know. So that's the gameplay stuff. Let's talk about outside of the game. This first thing I'm going to touch on very quickly is the economy. I think this just ties into everything that I talked about in the last segment. I'm not going to go full into, we talked about the economy so much in the first month. Let me take a drink of water real quick. We talked about the economy so much in the first month, so I'm not going to really touch on it. But the way it is now is they basically want you to play every day. And you can see I haven't done my day. I haven't done my dailies in like 4 or 5 days because I just don't enjoy playing the game right now because I don't enjoy building decks. I don't enjoy playing the decks that are good. And it's just a rough situation right now. But when you have a gameplay situation like that, where you are sort of punished for not playing the brand new decks in every set, unless you're playing Rune, then it's really hard to get players to play every day, right? So just that, a little bit. Then I want to talk about the events. So, of course, we had the Battlefest event, and I think that was a big deal for a lot of casual fans. Not casual, like derogatory, but just people that care about these type of events and stuff, right? And because of just how shady it was and how it was just not a good event. Very shady, very weird, and just not run well at all. And by shady, I mean the fact that they made the other cards cost an insane amount of gems, and they kind of designed it in a way where they knew that the least popular one could have a chance at winning, right? That's sort of what I mean by shady. I know how the rules worked. I'm not, it's not like, oh, they broke their own rules or anything. That's not. It was just designed poorly and designed with this out for them to make the 2 most popular ones paid in the store for an insane amount of crystals. That's what I mean. So that was the Battlefest. But the other event that's happening a lot, right, is the chest event. And the chest event goes back into, like, they're not giving us enough incentive to play every day. And especially with the chest event, it's like you could just be sitting here for 2 hours and not get a win. Or not get a chest, right? If you're winning. That's what I mean. And it's just rough. And for me, it's like, I don't even do the chest event. Like, I don't care, And, Then, those are, like, sort of the events. Then the biggest one in this sort of outside the game issue is Take-Two. Take-Two, I was really excited. It was a big sort of update for when it came out, right? Because it was like, hey, here's this new game mode. A lot of people were excited for it, and it was a complete disaster. I will never be playing Take-Two ever again. It's a complete waste of money, or waste of gold, and it is just not well designed at all. And they also just have no idea what they're doing, because the way they balance it is give you more rerolls, which it's like, what? And then they just did a balance for it. I think they buffed Haven, or did they buff Rune? I don't know which one they buffed, but it was like, that was not the one they need to buff, you know? And I just don't know how they messed this up so much, and it's really frustrating that in the first game, you got a lot more game, you got a lot more playing than you do now, because if you get 2 losses, you're just done. And the first game is just, how many wins can you get out of 5? And I really like that system more than just, once you lose 2, you're done. And of course, it just costs more, the rewards are worse, and everything like that. Take-Two just complete L, and it was really rough because it came out at a time where we really needed some new content and new stuff, and a lot of people were excited for it. I was excited for it. I really wanted to do a lot of Take-Two on this channel, but it ended up just being a complete waste of money and gold, and I was just like, whatever, I don't care. So those are like outside the game, events and stuff. And again, let me know if you guys, have different opinions and stuff like that, because I do want to discuss and talk about all this stuff. But next I want to talk about competitive. And of course, this is a topic that is sort of I wouldn't say expertise. Like, I'm not some, greatest player of all time or whatever, but I basically played almost every SVO from 2019 onwards. Like, probably 85% of SVOs I played in. And it's just not fun anymore. It's a lot of times towards the end of SV1, it did sort of feel like spinning the wheel and just go, like, hey, I might have a chance to get top 8, because it's like the game design was really bad at that point. It was just very random and very high rolly. And now we're at that point, but there's added layers of randomness before you even get into the game, right? And your control over how much like your skill impacts the outcome is at its lowest point in the history of this game, in my opinion. You just have no control. Like, I don't understand why they thought best of 1 was going to be fine, especially when they increase the power level and the speed of the game. And I really wish there was some form of like banning maybe your opponent's deck or something like that, but just sort of just choosing one of your decks to go in feels really bad. It just feels like a random, oh, he chose the wrong matchup, I guess I'm screwed. Obviously, there's a little bit to that where you can really know your matchups and know, well, he has such and such, so I'm never picking this deck, but that just feels really not, fun. And best of 3 deck 1 ban was really fun and really rewarding for knowing the full card list and game, the decks and everything, and the deck matchups and stuff. And then that kind of ties into just SVO not being very competitive. We've seen a lot of decks win that are just like, just like, okay, I like Temple Force a lot. That's a deck that I've had a lot of fun with, but, and Abyss has won every time, and Rune hasn't won ever, right? And it's like, that doesn't mean Rune is a bad deck, but yeah, it's just weird. It's weird stuff, And then this is sort of the bullet point for this section, and I know I'm kind of rambling on this whole video, but the bullet point for this section is, in SV1, they wanted anyone to be able to win with enough practice and input from the players. So the game is not complicated enough where it's like you literally could never win, right? Like, I don't think Shadowverse is a game where you take a random person off the street and they could like never win. Something like maybe like a Magic is, or something at like a super high level or whatever, right? Or like get into a high level, right? But that's dependent on how much they put into the game. Like, it's not a complicated game, but you do have to sit down and learn and intake a lot of info and stuff like that. That was SV1. That was like peak SV1, right? In this game, and I really mean that this is how I feel, is I feel like they want the feeling to be anyone can win with a certain amount of luck. Because there's not a ton of stuff to like learn in the game, and there's not enough stuff to control. Like, okay, you know that Roach beats Rune. Can't really do anything about it. You can't ban Roach if you have a Rune lineup. And stuff like that, right? It's just, well, hope they don't pick Rune, or hope they don't pick Roach, or they're showing Roach, so I have to play my second deck. That's it. That's the end of the interaction, right, of skill. And there's a lot of matchups in this game right now that are just sort of auto-win. Like, it's not like there's anything you can really do as a skill level, as a knowledge sort of check, right? It's like, oh, I know how to beat this deck now. So even if it's a bad matchup, I know how to do it because you're just not in control, you know? And that's how I feel, is I feel that in the old game, it was like anyone can win with practice and input from the players. Now it's anyone can win with luck. And then, so that was competitive. And then the last thing I will say is the community. We have a really awesome Discord community growing that plays the game. There's a lot of people in there that play the game. We also play other stuff. I've been playing some FGs with their fighting games with them and stuff. And they're really, really cool. If you guys want a community to play this game with or just hang out with really nice, cool people, join the Discord. I'm going to have a link in the description. So this is not to say that everyone that plays Shadowverse is what I'm about to say, but the overall Shadowverse community is very toxic. And for me, I'm really disappointed sort of in myself, but obviously it's something I can control, but that was something I really came into the game with a goal of, I want to become a content creator or whatever, or player that removes the toxicity, or at least there's a place for people that do not want to deal with the toxicity to come to in my channel and my Discord and stuff like that. Because that was something that I really had an issue with in SV1. Is the amount of hate whenever people get on stream on SVO, hate for misplays, and hate for people that play annoying decks or whatever, you know. And that's all the Reddit is now. It's just toxic and hatred towards whatever is the cool thing to hate on. And it's really disappointing that a lot of the old guard of SV1 is going back into their old ways. I really wanted to stop that. There's people that I know, like, that I've met in real life that are on Twitter saying absurd stuff. And I'm just like, that's just such a bad look and is not how we grow this already niche game. Because we had a chance for this game to not be niche. Half of that, I'd even say 70% of that is Cygame's fault. I think Cygames messed the release up, and we fumbled the beginning, right? But people discover the game in different ways, right? And when they go into the Reddit and just see hate thread, someone misplayed on SVO, wow, this guy's an idiot, yada yada, whatever. It's not good. It's really not good. And I don't think there's anything we can do to stop that now. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, that's every card game community. The issue is this card game community had no bright spot, right, in SV1. There was no bright spot. It was all toxic. A lot of the other card games that I play, like the One Piece community is awful, like in a general sense, right? But I know a lot of people, I have a lot of groups of people that are really cool and really nice and really like the game. Liking the game isn't necessary to not being toxic, right? But Shadowverse 1 had zero bright spots, and this game is starting not to either, right? So that's all I have to say about the community. I'm really disappointed that a lot of the, old guard are up to their normal ways and behavior and sort of get a lot of these other people to think it's acceptable to say some of these things online. And it just disappoints me. It really, really disappoints me. Especially the people that I know. Like, seeing some tweets from people that I know, just like, this is awful. And I think that's when I knew, like, I was kind of not done with the game, because I'm not done with the game. I want to see what the balance is. I want to see what Step 4 is. But it really, like, that was like, okay, I think I need to make a video. And that was mostly about like the barrack stuff, you know. And in my Discord, I'm talking about a lot of the barrack stuff. I'm not going to talk about it now. I think we're over it. But that was just a rough situation too. And that was where, you know, it's one of those times where it's like, well, I can't really defend the community all the way this time, right? So, or sorry, I can't. What am I trying to say? I can't criticize the community all the way this time. That's what I meant. So yeah, that's it. Overall, I'm just sad. I'm just sad. This is kind of a rambling video, but I'm just sad about the state of this game. I really wanted this game to be good. They had an opportunity for it to be good. I think right now, in my opinion, it's not a good game. I think it is not a good card game. And I don't know. Hope you guys feel different. I hope I am wrong. I hope I am, an outlier. But yeah, let me know what you guys have to say in the comments. And hopefully, we will be doing more, Shadowverse videos and stuff, but I will start to be doing other stuff. I did a very fun Silk Song video that I edited and I thought was pretty good. So if you want to check that out, that would be awesome. And we are going to try to do some other stuff here, and I really hope that you guys stick around, because when I'm enjoying something, it's a lot of fun, and I like enjoying things with people. But when you're not enjoying something, it's really hard to fake it. For me, it's really hard to fake being, like, having fun with Shadowverse. So that's all I have to say about that. Hope you guys have a great one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.